Bassmaster Rapala Fantasy Fishing is back, and it's time to get things kicked off for Lake Okeechobee, the Big O, and we're going to give you a few picks you may not have thought of and some anglers you absolutely have to have on your roster. If you're new to fantasy fishing, if you haven't played before, now is a great time to get signed up because there's lots of free prizes from different groups, from Bassmaster, from Rapala, and it costs nothing and only takes a few minutes each week to play, and it makes following the tournaments more fun when you got something invested and you got anglers to follow. This year, the Bassmasters kicking things off on Lake Okeechobee, the Big O, which is exciting because we've had like almost every year for the past several years has been St. John's River. So it's a nice change of pace. We're going to start somewhere different. And honestly, it's in Florida, but the Big O, Okeechobee, doesn't really fish like St. John's, doesn't really fish like Kissimmee, doesn't really fish like Toho or Harris Chain. It's a little bit different, a lot less offshore, much more heavy flipping. Skinny dippers, swim jigs, senkos around emergent vegetation and things like that, and submergent vegetation as well. I really think because of the high water, the warming trend that we're on, it looks really good. We got a really, really good warming trend coming up here, and honestly, MLF's catching them pretty good, so I expect the Elite Series to catch them really good as well. We're going to have a day off. Their practice is going to start. There's going to be a slight little cool dip, not a cold front, which should stage these fish up, which will make it really good. And then it's going to go on to a warming trend, which should create a really big event for the Bassmaster Elite Series. And I don't think we're going to see a lot of offshore Carolina jigging, shell bed, that kind of stuff. I think we're going to see chatterbaits, power fishing, flipping, little swim baits, weedless, things like that. Swim jigs should be a really good event, fun to watch on Bassmaster Live. In a few minutes here, I'm going to tell you what power fishing anglers to put on your roster and help you pick a really good roster to get off to a great season. And maybe you can beat HellaBass. So speaking of beat HellaBass, make sure you join my group. If you're watching this video, you're eligible to go to the groups, scroll down here, find the Beat HellaBass group, which is the largest private group, and let's keep it that way. There's room for more. There's room for you. Come on in. So link down in the description or go to the groups page, click Beat HellaBass, and then it's going to ask you for a password. The password is all caps VISOR to get in, and you'll be able to compete for individual prizes that are for this private group only. Not everybody can get in. Only those that watch these videos will know how to get in, and you'll be in a smaller group competing for prizes. To be determined what those prizes are going to look like. More will come on future videos. If you're new to fantasy fishing, you're new to this channel, and you're excited about fantasy fishing, you want to make sure you don't miss out and don't miss any events, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell because I do previews for every fantasy fishing event throughout the season, which will help you suck less at fantasy fishing. There are two games. There's the traditional fantasy fishing game, and there's the Drain the Lake. We're going to start with the traditional fantasy fishing game, which has bigger prizes and a little easier to play. Basically, each week you get 5 buckets, A, B, C, D, E. You pick the best angler from each bucket. You score the most points. You win the prizes. That's really that easy. As always, I like to start in bucket E. You want to make sure you get these rosters in by 6 a.m. Eastern, the day of the tournament, so might as well get them done now. Get it done with. You can second guess and change it as much as you want, but if you forget to get the roster in, you're not going to score any points. Bucket. So at the beginning of the year, it's kind of set a little bit on history and how they think anglers are going to do, and a little bit on last year's AOI and some of that thing. So a little bit of value here to be found in these different buckets. After this event, it'll be strictly on fantasy fishing performance and angler of the year. So the better anglers do, they're going to be in the upper buckets. The worse they do, they're going to be in the lower in the bucket. Typically, when you're picking bucket E and bucket D, they're the anglers that are not doing very well in the season. And as you get to the top, those are your AOI contenders. I think there's a couple interesting anglers here. I think Ike and Ellie, a ton of history in Okeechobee, not a lot of success, but obviously he's seen it over the years, which will put him in a good position to adjust to the high water, the lack of grass, and things like that on Okeechobee this year. Wes Logan, not necessarily known as a Florida stud, but he does have really good resume for catching them, flipping, punching big weights like he did on Gunnersville, and he went head-to-head with Caleb Kufal just a year or two ago. Very much a little guy carrying a big stick, but I think he's got the right attitude and the chops to do well in this Okeechobee tournament. Derek Hudnall could be another sneaky pick here. I think he could be good. He likes shallow water fishing. He likes largemouth. It could be a good fit. Kyle Northsider from Wisconsin. Guys up north tend to do well when they go to Florida. The vegetation, it feels normal, shallow water. They're good at picking apart grass, so there's a wild card for you. But for me, against my better judgment, I'm going to Stephen Kennedy. He's typically really up, really down, feast or famine when it comes to fancy fishing. He's always a high risk, high reward. But since he's in bucket E, I'm going to roll the dice because we got the rest of the season to make this up if it doesn't go well. So hopefully on Sunday, we're hearing War Eagle from Mr. Kennedy. Bucket D, a little more options here. You got guys like John Cruz, who typically do really well in St. John's. We'll see how it translates to Okeechobee. It may or may not. Kyle Welcher, not afraid of frogging, not afraid of flipping, not afraid of braid swim jigs. I think he could be a really good pick here. There's a couple of Florida anglers in here like Kobe Krieger and Bernie Schultz. They have some experience at Okeechobee. Their resumes are okay. You can't usually go wrong with a local, but I'm going to avoid him this week. Clark Wentland, quite a bit of experience here from his MLF, FLW days, as well as Larry Nixon. And, you know, dragging a worm, a senko, real slow in Florida, gets it done. So this might be a time to use the old general up if you're a big fan of Larry Nixon. Cliff Prince, probably the most solid, safest pick. His resume is actually pretty good in Okeechobee, even though he's a local to the St. Johns River. So that would be a good safe pick. But then I'm going to go Matt Herron. I think all his experience over the years, FLW, MLF, Bassmaster, not the greatest year, the last year or two, but this really fits his strength. The Alabama angler, I think he's going to be able to swim jig, he's going to flip, going to punch, and I think he's going to feel at home, and I expect a statement tournament out of Matt Herron to open the 2023 season. Bucket C, you know what? There's some really good options here. Brian Schmidt, good in Florida, good in grass. You got a guy like John Sukup, new on the season, expect big things from him this year. A lot of good anglers here, but I don't think it's like, let's not avoid the obvious here. Let's go Scott Martin and get this done. He's a Cluiston native. He's got more hours and days on Okeechobee than all the rest of the Elite Series combined. So don't overthink this. Bucket B, I'm going to go a little more chalk here. I think there are some really strong anglers like Christie, Livesey, Porosnik, Hallman, who's a tour winner on Okeechobee. So many good options, but Hack Attack, off to a fast start the last couple of years in Florida. Has a really good resume, 3 out of 4 top 10s on Okeechobee. The chalk is warranted. The owner percentage is warranted. Expect big things from the Hack Attack, swinging hard on braids, big sticks at Okeechobee. Group A, John Cox, a really good pick. Lots of good options. Swindle could be good here. New's done well in Florida. Lester's always strong in Florida. Walters, Zaldane, those guys catch them all over the place. Really, there's not many bad picks here in Bucket A. But I'm going to try to go a little off the radar here. The Johnson brothers have a ton of experience in MLF, FLW days, fishing Everstarts, Toyotas, tour events. They do well in Florida. They're good at flipping vegetation. They're good sight fishermen. Corey, Chris, they're both good options. I'm going Corey. A little bit of the underdog in the Johnson battle this week. So that's my picks. I think it's going to be in the mid 80s to 90 pounds for the tiebreaker. Now let's jump over to Drain the Lake and knock that out super quick. If you need a Drain the Lake planner, I've got one for you. I've published it. I've created it for my members only on the channel. If you want to check it out, I will put a link down in the description below in the video. If it's something interesting to you, for a couple bucks, you can have that planner, and it makes planning out the Drain the Lake season a breeze. Drain the Lake is much more of a long-term strategy game. It's elimination style type pool. You can only use an angler once all season. So you have 104 anglers plus some classic anglers. You got 10 events, 8 anglers per event. So you have to use 80 out of the 104 basically, and you can only use them one time per year. So you kind of need to plan things out. Do I want to use up a Johnson brother who's good at sight fishing early in the spring, or do I want to save him for smallies in the fall up north? And just have to plan that out. If you use all your big guns in the first tournament, you come out to a great start, you get a bunch of weight, but then you might peter out towards the end of the season, and it's a marathon, not a sprint when it comes to Drain the Lake. So my tool sets you up for success, allows you to plan the whole season in just a few minutes. So I'm definitely going Martin. I'm not saving him this year. We're going to use him up right away. I'm going to grab Heron. We are going to put Scott Canterbury in for all his days in FLW and experience. He's got some top 10s here on Okeechobee. We like Hackney out of the gate as well. We're going to scoop up Cliff Prince for the only Florida tournament technically on the schedule. We're taking Cook as a sight fishing expert. I'm choosing to use Welter's frogging and flipping experience here as well. And we're going to leverage Lester's big-time Florida prowess to lock down a solid team. So that's our 8 anglers. Tiebreaker remains the same. If you're all in on fantasy fishing, make sure you check on the playlist on the screen coming up right here for all things fantasy fishing in 2023.